to Brand X Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Top Gun Maverick. Now, this is a film that got delayed quite a bit, obviously, with everything that was going on back in 2020. Films were getting delayed, and this is one of the last ones that was kind of ready to go. I don't think it was like 100% finished in terms of editing and so on, but it was due to come out in 2020, and unlike, say, for example, a Bond film, No Time to Die, where they just kept delaying it 6 months at a time, this one, they just says no, put it on the back burner. So obviously it's taken a long time for us to actually get to see this. Definitely highly anticipated on a number of levels. I remember going to see the film Tenet, the Christopher Nolan one, that did get a release in the summer of 2020. That was one of the ones where they stayed the course. And there was a trailer for Top Gun Maverick when we went to see that. So I've been teased with this film's trailer every time I've been to the cinema, going back years now. I think that first trailer kind of dropped in 2019 from memory, but whatever. Anyway, so the film itself, like I said, I'm not going to be getting into what I would consider as spoilers. So if there's anything that's in the trailer, I don't consider that a spoiler, so I'll mention that. Those are my basics on this, or anything in the promotional material. So obviously this film is set in the present day. It's 35 years since the original film, thereabouts, and obviously when you get movies like this, it's very difficult to tell what they're going to do with the characters. What kind of arc have they gone on in the years between the original and the new one? Is it the same person we remembered? Because obviously we've seen ruination of characters such as Luke Skywalker, where they just really disrespected that character and who he was at the end of Return of the Jedi, when they brought him back, to the point where even the actor called them out on that for doing that, saying it was a betrayal of the character and so on. It's so good that in this they didn't do that. It's still his character. It's Tom Cruise pretty much playing himself in a lot of ways, but he's still got that spirit that he had in the original film. He's not burnt out. He's still living his best life. He's still doing what he wants to do. He's still pushing the envelope when it comes to doing things to keep things going, basically. Because the film starts out, again, not really getting into spoilers, but he's doing kind of like test pilot kind of work without going into specifics of it. Again, he's very similar to in that original film. He'll break the rules, he'll do things, but it's for the right so he'll do the wrong thing for the right reasons, basically. Bit of a cowboy, typical kind of like archetypal character, but in a good way. And in some ways, this movie throws back to like other films. I'm thinking like Star Trek and Star Wars, and I'll get into the specifics of that again without giving spoilers. But I'm thinking of like the original Star Trek with Captain Kirk. When they went and did the movies, obviously a captain would have been promoted by now, and obviously that's mentioned in the trailer for this, like why he's not kind of advanced. And they find a reason, I'm not going to say what it is, but they find a reason to bring him back into the Top Gun program. Very specific reasons, because otherwise it would be very unusual to do something like that, to hold somebody back for such a long time. They're still working on that. That wouldn't really happen. But for the purpose of the story, and it works, they bring him back into the Top Gun program. And so you get to see him doing a lot of the same stuff that he was doing in the original film, but updated. And it's not a rehash of that by any means. It's a different film. But obviously from the trailer, as you gather, it's got the actor Miles Teller plays Goose's son. So Goose was a guy that died in the original, played by Anthony Edwards. Quite memorable as Dr. Green on ER. That was probably his most memorable character, maybe. And he plays his son, and there's a lot of bad blood between them because he considers that Tom Cruise was responsible for his death to a certain degree, anyway. And there's other stuff as well going on, but again, I'm not doing spoilers, so I'm not going to get too much into that. But there's a lot of animosity between these two, and you kind of think it's going to be predictable. There's going to be like a scene where Goose is going to be out there and there'll be a missile going for him at the end of the film, and Tom Cruise will fly in front of it and say, "This is for your dad," and he takes the missile and Tom Cruise dies or something like that. You think it's going to be a bit predictable. It doesn't do anything like that, anything as bad as that. because that would just be like, yeah, we saw that coming and also it kind of sucks, does that? So luckily they don't do the usual kind of lazy things like that with this. They really do some quite inventive things now. Again, I keep saying this, I want to say more, that's why I keep saying I don't want to give away spoilers, because I really enjoyed this film and I kind of want to talk about it in specific terms. Maybe in a later review or something I will. But yeah, the stuff that they get into in this and some of the ideas that they put on rolled camera on. I mean, a lot of this, the majority of what you see, it was done in camera without kind of, as I say, being lazy and relying on CGI. What you see is what they filmed in a large amount of what is on screen. So very impressive on so many levels, and it's great that they didn't go woke as well. I know this is something that I talk about in a lot of my other videos. I don't have an agenda bringing that up necessarily, but it is definitely pertinent because it's one of those things that ruins films. I mean, the woke ideology is just absolute poison to entertainment. Whatever it touches, it just goes to hell. So I'm so glad that in this there was no hint of that. So it was just good to have a very good pro-American, not pro-American government, shadow government, all the like bad stuff that we can criticise and should, but just pro-America as in the people. The people. But, random Bane quote there. But yeah, it's just one of those things, it's quite rare that you get that nowadays, especially in these legacy franchises, because of the repurposing of those things. We've seen that with so many franchises. They take what they know has an existing core audience and they just screw them over. I mean, as a contrast, Tom Cruise has recently said on social media a big thank you to all the fans, because those were the ones that this movie was made for making this film a success and going to see it and being positive about it and word of mouth spreading. And it's all helped the movie be a success. You know, we made this film for you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Contrast that with what we've had with Disney and Lucasfilm and Star Wars, gaslighting their fan base as racist and bigoted and sexist because they have legitimate grievances against these new characters that they've introduced. I'm not going to get too much in that because that's a separate subject if I go too heavy into that. But if you know what I'm talking about, it's been a big story this last week. The contrast between that and this pretty much tells you everything you need to know. This movie has done very well at the box office, and from what I understand, its second weekend now, it's not suffered much of a drop off either. This thing's hopefully going to have legs. That's when something isn't just a box office smash in opening weekend and then just kind of dwindles very quickly. Hopefully this thing's going to last, and after that second weekend, from what I understand, I think this might be domestic only, but it's like the second or maybe the lowest drop off for any movie over a certain, like 100 million, 150 million. I can't remember in dollars. My conversion's a bit funny, but yeah. Anyway, for a film that's made as much as it's had, it's either the second highest or the highest. The lowest drop off in its second weekend. So that's a good sign, is that? And that is a hallmark of a successful movie. Obviously, you can always spin the figures and so on, but if you look at it from that point of view alone, a drop off, a small drop off from a high successful first weekend, however you try to spin that, is a success. So really happy to hear that anyway. So beyond that, obviously, there's so much I could say about this movie, and I definitely recommend you go see it. It does have a big emotional story arc to it as well. You've got a lot of stuff going on with the Val Kilmer character from the original film. I'm not going to get in too much into specifics, but you're probably aware he is in the movie in some capacity. It's very difficult because Val Kilmer's had some... he's a pretty tragic guy, even like going back to the 90s. Not just the stuff that he's had in recent years, but he'd always kind of had a lot of tragedy in his life. And obviously, in more recent times, he had throat cancer, so he doesn't have a voice box. from what I understand anyway, and they've kind of written that into the movie, into his character. Again, I won't say any more than that, but it's pretty sad anyway, basically. Sad for the fictional side of things, the Iceman character, but also sad for the actor as well. But yeah, it was good to see him though anyway, in the capacity that we do. So beyond that, as I say, the parallel, I was going to go back to this before, I was saying the parallel to Star Trek with him having been kind of demoted technically so that he can go back into the Top Gun program, which is what he wants to do. Otherwise, demotion is never good. They did that with Captain Kirk, Admiral Kirk in Star Trek movies. There's a Star Trek reference where, without going into the technicalities and the specifics of it, again, non-spoiler, there's a mission that they have to do, and it involves having to kind of fly through a trench, basically, and they have to stay at a certain altitude, at a certain speed, it has to be done within a certain time. They have to kind of go around, like kind of run a gauntlet, very similar to the trench run in the Death Star battle at the end of the original Star Wars movie. And then when they get to the end of that trench, there's a target that they have to fire on that is very small, and they kind of refer to that shot as being a miracle. So that's very similar to the 2-meter exhaust port that they have to like fire on in the original Star Wars. So a lot of people have been saying there's like a very similar Star Trek thing going on with this. It's definitely true. I think it was Ice-T, random reference. Ice-T, the rapper, had put something on Instagram that I'd spotted, had written saying, yeah, there's some like serious Star Wars shit going on with this movie. I wasn't wrong anyway. When you see the film, you'll know what I mean. So there's lots of kind of other little pop culture references in there, as well as just being a Top Gun movie. So lots of fun. This is one of the best sequels I've seen in a long time. As far as sequels that have been decades after the fact, I would put this as satisfying as the Blade Runner 2047. Was it 2047 movie, or 2049? What was it called? I should know. I'm a big fan of that. 2049. Yeah. That was a very good, satisfying sequel. If you're a fan of the original, this is the same deal. Now, one last thing I'll say before I close. I did go to see this in IMAX. This is a movie for the cinema, and if you can see it on a good screen, preferably IMAX, it was incredible. It really was. The trailers that I saw in IMAX, like I say, when I saw the film Tenet and a few others, the trailer for this was playing at that. The IMAX format was definitely, I was sold on that, just having seen the trailers, and I wasn't disappointed when I went to see the movie on any level. So I'm going to leave there. Obviously, I enjoyed this film. I don't know if you got the impression from watching this, but yeah, I recommend this movie on so many levels, and I'm looking forward to seeing it again when it comes out to buy. So I shall end it there. So Brand X Reviews, you can like this video, you can subscribe to the channel if you want to, and I shall say thank you very much for watching. From the studios of Brand X Reviews, we present to you the News at 10 with Joseph Skelton. And in late breaking news, we have some shock analysis and a major announcement with regards to the Nero house break-in. As you can see, 2 men broke into the garden and jumped over the fence. Now, until now, the identity of the 2 men was unknown, but through some exclusive computer analysis, we have enhanced the video, and we can, for the first time here, show. You'll see they turn to the camera and it's very clear the identity. It was the core and the Topher. Absolutely shocking. Topher's mum has been notified. Now, stay tuned because there are going to be updates as this matter progresses. Just unbelievable.